All right. Today I'm here with Neil Timmons. Neil is one of my coaching clients. He's also a real estate broker and investor, and he's doing some big things. We're going to talk about a very creative real estate deal that we just worked together over the last few months. Neil, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your background, what market you're in, and what you're doing?
Hey, Greg. Hey, thanks for having me on here. I'm excited to chat with you and dive into to a case study and share a little about that and hopefully help some folks along the way here. So I'm out of Des Moines, Iowa. I've been in real estate. Now this year, 2022 will be my 18th year in real estate. Started in traditional real estate as a real estate agent. So have been a real estate agent for years and years. Was a top Remax guy when I was in my 20s. That is long since come and gone. And have morphed over the last 5 years. 5 years ago, I don't think I told you this. 5 years and about 3 months ago, I bought my very first rental property.
So you were straight up retail real
Yeah,
estate until
yeah,
5 years ago.
yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's when I bought my first rental property, and slowly picked up some rentals, started morphing more into fix and flip. So that the goal was to, can either be an agent or I can fix and flip. That's how I viewed these things because they're both active income. And so morphed my business really over to the fix and flip side, away from that of being an agent. I got out of being an agent a year ago, brought a gal in, a partner on that side of things. So although I'm still a broker, still manage the brokerage piece, the day-to-day realtor world, I've got a gal who actually runs that for us, and just does a bang up job for us. And then my world is largely focused on fixing and flipping. It's really focused on acquiring property, and then the disposition of the property depends on the deal. So whether that's fix and flip, whether that's buy and hold on a rental, single family, duplex, eightplex, whatever it is, and then up into the commercial world, which we'll touch on, which involves some wholesale and buy and holds there.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons you reached out to me is you wanted to get into the commercial, multifamily, and real estate development side of the business, and we started out with a nice project here.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, one thing I've learned very early on in being a realtor was, if you don't have a coach, you're going to pay for this one way or another. You're going to pay for it on the street and experienced losing deals, or you can shortcut the process. And I've always chosen to shortcut the process. That's what allowed me to be, like I said, the number one Remax agent when I was 29 years old in the state of Iowa. And it's what allows me to shortcut. And I don't think I could have gotten this deal over the finish line without your guidance. We worked on this for months and months, carving it up a multitude of ways in how it could go, and then eventually going, all right, here's the strategy, and let's deploy this and put it in place. And it came together.
Yeah, absolutely. The power of coaching. And as a realtor,
Yeah.
you know the value and the power of that. And the big thing is the time. It's just the time that saves you, then the creativity, because all you know is what you know. And
Correct.
Just like this deal, you had all these things fall in your lap and you're like, well, where do I start?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How do I do it? Where do I go? Am I going to raise? Am I not going to raise money? Yeah.
Here's the four properties. I'm showing them right now so everybody can see them. We had four commercial buildings, all in your area, all pretty much medical tenants, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. The core, the building right there is 6105 Northwest 86, single tenant, orthodontist. The bottom one, 7180 Hickman, single tenant orthodontist. And then 60 East Hickman, there were two tenants, one orthodontist and one medical practitioner, the largest walk-in clinic provider here in the area. And then the top.
And this was a package deal. All four properties, they wanted to sell all four of them at the same time, did not want to sell them out individually, right?
That's where correct. And that's where it originated, was with all four. And that was always the intent all the way through, is to sell it as a package.
Okay. How did you find this deal? How did you come across it?
This one I happened to come across. My brother is a broker here in town on the commercial side of things, and an agent in his office. I reach out to my brother along with other folks in the community to make them aware of what it is that I do and what it is that I'm looking for, that I'm active in the market as a buyer. and he happened to reach out to somebody in his office and knew that they were working on this for, period of, months really leading up to this being available for sale. And then it eventually was listed. So although I may have had some knowledge of it coming to market before others, it was listed for sale in totality. So you, me, anybody could have pursued this as I did.
Right. But the key that gave you an advantage was you were the only one that was willing to go ahead and take all 4 properties down at the same time, where I guess other buyers in the market did not want all 4 buildings.
Correct. Yeah, they did not want all 4 buildings. What ended up transpiring as we were a week or two into it being listed for sale is this one up in Ankeny, the 211 Northwest School Street. That's about a 4 or 5. It's a condo complex, and they owned about 70% of the building, which consisted of about 4 or 5 tenants. Eventually that dropped out of the portfolio. The seller said there were some moving pieces there as it related to the tenants and the renewals, et cetera. And so they pulled that out and didn't offer it for sale. And it seemed like that was probably a good choice for them based on what they probably got to go reposition this with some tenancy and then bring it back to market at a later point in time. But you're right. So that left 3 properties, of which nobody in the market wanted 3 properties because they're just a bit different.
Yeah. And then, so we looked at it. First thing we did was, valued the properties based off the income, the tenancy, looked at the buildings, physical condition, all the usual, due diligence that you're going to do before you decide to make a contract. And then came the contemplation of how to structure this deal. Do you buy all 3? Do you syndicate it? Do you go to the bank? Do you flip 1, keep 2? So tell us a little bit about the decision process and how this went down.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So where we ended up with is we ended up at going up memory here, $9.6 million was the total purchase price on 3 properties.
And is this the biggest deal that you bid off so far?
Yeah, far and away.
Biggest deal of your career.
Yep. $9.6 million, and of which this one in Waukee, the 60 East Hickman Road, was the lion's share because of the medical user, Unity Point in this case, having a large footprint and square footage, and subsequently a large lease dollar associated with that. So that carried the lion's share of value with this. So that there's pros and cons to that. The con being, if I wanted to focus in on that, just knowing that it's going to take a lot of dollars. It had the lowest cap rate because it's got the best user. And the pro of this is that from the buyers in the marketplace, it had the most interest because it's you get ultimately 2 tenants there, both really good users, both really good leases. Physically, this is located in a tremendous location, one of the fastest growing suburbs, literally in the country. It's just a wonderful spot.
All right. So, all right. So we have 3 buildings, 9.6 million. So what was the next step?
The next step here was to identify what's the strategy here. And you and I spoke and was like, well, you got 2 options. You're going to go, in this case, raise the money and go take it all down, or is there an opportunity to sell this one? And when I say sell, I mean wholesale the property in the Waukee location. And so that's what it came down to. What I was able to figure out, and people got word that when we went under contract, they got word that I had this thing under contract. There was a lot of interest in that one location from people in the marketplace. So I was able, I've been in Des Moines a long time. And so not every agent, but a whole bunch of them. And so was able to connect with an agent who had a client who had interest. They had interest only in that location and made an offer evidently on that one location, but didn't get it because they were unwilling to take the portfolio.
So the decision process here was, so for people that don't understand, yes, you can wholesale commercial property. What a wholesale is, that's just a slang term in the industry for assignment of a contract. So you can assign your rights to a contract to an end buyer, which is what people refer to as a wholesale. A real wholesale would be actually a retail deal where you buy it and you sell it and resell it. That's traditionally, you buy it under market and resell it straight up. That would be an official wholesale, but assignment of a contract is what we're talking about here, where you did not close on that one, you closed on the other one. So what we did was we looked at exactly what you said. We looked at the income versus the value of the property in the marketplace. And your goal was, I want to retain the highest possible cash flow I can get for the least amount of outflow.
That's right.
That you could retain. So we identified, let's wholesale Hickman, and let's go from there. What did that end up wholesaling for, the assignment, and how did it proceed from there?
So that one ended up wholesaling for 7.9 million.
All right, so 9.6 minus 7.9 leaves you in it for 1.5, right?
1.7.
1.7. Yeah, 1.7. I'm sorry.
No, you're at 1.5 for a different reason. I'm going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. So that left 1.7. I did pay a commission to the procuring agent on that one. So I did give him a commission fee. So 7.9 out the door, but I did give him a commission fee.
All right. So now you've got two buildings at 1.7.
Two buildings at 1.7. We go through due diligence, which was there was some unique art to lining up due diligence on all of these, because the seller, rightfully so, they want to sell us a package, sell it rightfully so. All these properties were tied together. And so they had to close on the same day. And so due diligence had to be, I was able to complete my due diligence on the two buildings that I intended to take down, and this new buyer, the assignment buyer, had to complete their due diligence in that same time frame. So we wanted to make sure these things were perfectly lined up. Fortunately, on the 60 East Hickman there in Waukee, the building's not that old. Just due diligence, just a breeze physically. And then, you got two really good tenants. Leases are pretty darn clean. So that was an easy process there. On mine, the two that I intend to take down, Johnston and Windsor Heights, those two, as we go through there, they're a little older, had some, although physically on the exteriors, they've been kept in very good condition. We had a few concrete spots, and then some older HVACs and ACs. So there were a few pieces there that needed to be addressed. And along with this one on Hickman, although it's got a really good lease in place, as we look through the numbers again, there wasn't a high comfort level for what's this going to be able to release for if these people leave. So what I ended up doing is drafting and negotiating a new purchase price associated with both of these, the Hickman and the Northwest 86, down to 1.5. So ultimately a $200,000 reduction, and that's where he came up with that.
Yeah, I remember the 1.5, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't adding up.
Yep.
Awesome. So now you're into these for $750 a piece. And what is your income on the properties, and what kind of cap rate does that end up working out to?
Good question. I've got my screen open next to me here. So these are both triple net deals.
Yep. And that means the tenant pays all taxes, insurance, maintenance. Triple net's the best way to go. You're just collecting income and paying the mortgage, and tenant takes care of the rest.
Yeah, I've got some structural requirements there and some HVAC requirements, concrete, but everything, both of these are in good shape. Roofs look good. I mean, outside of what I addressed in the retrade, it's very clean cut. But yeah, they take care of the taxes and insurance, all the your traditional your common area maintenance items. So the total annual rent between the two buildings is just a shade over 202,000.
All right. And what's your operating cost? What does your net income end up being? About 60% of that?
My net income, I put it on, oh, that's another piece. Let me mention this. I was able, given the strength of these deals and where the appraisals came in at, so I'm into the thing at 1.5 million, right?
Right.
The appraisal came in at 254.
Okay. That's okay.
2,540,000. I was able to put a loan in place at 1.5 at my
Right.
exact
So
at my exact purchase price.
I
Yeah,
forgot about that piece. Yeah. You didn't have to put any money down. You've got a million in equity in the deal.
correct.
And well, actually your net operating income, if you're grossing 210,000 a year, you should be taking home probably about 90% of that.
It's I'm just running the quick math. I ended up putting that loan on a 20-year AM. I could have done 25. I could have done 15. It really didn't make it was dealer's choice, if you will. That puts my payment at about $106,000 a year. So,
Mhm.
my net right there is just shy of $100,000.
100,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how amazing is that? Your biggest deal you've ever done,
Right.
no money in it. You've got a
Right.
million in equity, and you ended up with $100,000 a year in
In net.
free cash flow before taxes.
Correct.
And you're going to be able to do, probably some cost segregation, things like that, depreciation. So you probably won't pay any tax on that income for a good while.
Correct. Yeah. The cost segs. In fact, I already talked to my cost seg guy. They ran me some prelims. So, it looks like I don't have the exact number in front of me, but the number was pretty attractive. So they'll come out. They physically fly out here and then do the cost segs. But yes,
Right.
absolutely, that's going to be done for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. So that is a fantastic deal there. Congratulations. And
Yeah.
I'd
No,
forgotten about the bank loan and how that all worked out, and that you ended up not having to put any money down, ended up with all that equity.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an unusual one because of that. But I've been able to build some tremendous relationships from the lending standpoint. That, and when you've got $1 million in equity in it, for those folks, who are listening to this, when you've got equity in this, that's real money. There's negotiating power there. Everybody does a lot of different things. So, a builder may construct this and build this whole thing. Other people may add a tenant and change the value. Well, there's value in buying it correctly from the get-go and the cash flow being there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the key. A lot of times somebody would look at something like this and go, 3 buildings or 4 buildings. I don't want that. There's nothing I can do with it. And just kind of move on. And, we tackled this thing from a creative standpoint, and then you ended up with just a slam dunk deal. And it was all reverse engineering the process. And that's,
Correct.
the biggest thing to do on any deal, any situation, no matter what it is. What's the end goal? What are you looking for? And your end goal was, well, I want the highest rent that I can get for the least amount of dollars. So we broke up the properties and said, okay, well, what does that look like per property? And
Right.
said, well, it looks like these are your best options. That, the one went away. Now we had the 3. Those 2 are the best cash flows in terms of, what they're worth versus what they're renting for.
Correct.
So split one off and, keep the other 2. And, a lot of people just would have passed by that thing, which they did. And,
Correct.
Yeah,
well, yeah, you hit it on the head. Okay. And that's the part that's really interesting when now that we're done, we're close, is that it was on the open market. So many of these, anybody could have bought it. There was a number of ways to do it. And they didn't.
Yeah. And that's what's so much fun about real estate. It's so creative. You can structure deals any way. And, I've done deals like this all day long with buildings, with houses. We have multi property portfolios. And, the key is get the deal under control and then figure out how to get to the end, how to get to the end line.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So have I, as it relates to portfolios of houses, where we've done the exact same thing, where you buy a 6-pack of houses or whatever the combination may be, whether it's duplexes or triplexes, and break these things up. Decide, all right, what are we gonna remodel and resell? What are we gonna end up with that produces tremendous cash flow? We've got an extra, once in a while I'll buy something, it's got an extra lot. How do we? It's already carved off, but then how do we sell that? to capture the gains associated with that extra lot that's with it.
Yep.
And this is just that, but looking at it, it's a very similar lens what you're going to look through. It's just a little different. There's a couple of tweaks, but it's the same exact methodology.
Yeah, yeah, and just analyzing the deal and how can I make this happen. And on the other side, we did have solutions lined up if the wholesale assignment did not work out and you had to take everything down and then resell later. So we had those solutions in place as well. So it wasn't just that if this doesn't work, then the whole deal's off.
Correct.
And then you could always negotiate extensions, things like that. So the key is you got to take action. You got to analyze it correctly. You got to understand it, get control of it, then start working the deal from there.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
Yeah, cool. So what are you working on now? What kind of deals you looking for? Are you taking on investors? What does your world look like right now?
Yep, it's a good question. Yes, so we are actively pursuing additional net lease properties. So both in the medical side and then also in the warehouse side. So kind of at the exact same time I took this down, I took a warehouse down just shy of 17,000 square feet. Net lease deal, publicly traded company. That was an off-market sourced deal. So we're looking for more properties like that, net lease deals, and whether they are totally net leased or you've got some vacancy in it that perhaps needs to be filled. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And then this year, yes, we will be raising dollars, looking for investors who are looking for steady, consistent, I don't want to say boring, but steady, consistent, reliable cash flow. Because in order for me, you just see the deal we just did. In order for me to get really excited and put a deal together, this thing's got to work. I would never ask an investor to take a ride with us if I'm not willing to write the check myself. And that's exactly how we'll structure the deals.
Yeah. And, these, it's an interesting niche versus, the multifamily side. We looked at, I know, a number of multifamily deals. Sure. And just with the cap rates right now, it's hard to make those work.
Correct.
And it's very difficult to find something like this where you can, build that kind of equity right out of the gate.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And, what I liked a lot about this, think about what we just bought. It has to be underwritten who's the user, and if this user goes, who's the next user. In these cases, they're orthodontists. Well, there's kids all day long. We're in a growing environment. There's kids all day long need braces. I mean, they've got a track record of being in this location for quite some time. In this case, this organization owns nearly 300 locations throughout the country, so they've got a track record of doing things at a very high level.
Yeah. And if they were to leave, like you said, you could easily put, another dentist, sure, orthodontist, pediatric, whatever, medical, use in there very easily. That's a niche, I think, that we saw, going through the pandemic and what we've seen the last few years. A lot of commercial real estate struggled, but, medical, gas stations, food, all your core essentials that you need, that cannot be, outsourced or done virtually. Those are the types of assets you want to own. And I mean, these properties, they're not going anywhere. There's always going to be a need for, medical, dental, those types of things in communities. And, you just can't go wrong with something like that.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's about asset selection. Another one that I own, I bought 3 years ago now, is a bakery. I own it's occupied. So it's a warehouse, about 17,000 square feet. It's a bakery. It's the largest grocer in the city. Well, I mean, they are one of the largest grocers in the entire Midwest.
Yeah. I mean, people have to eat, we saw that.
It's a heck of a tenant to have in there. So they've been in there. And I think with all their options and everything else, I think that they signed somewhere in the nature of a 35-year lease when you include all the options. Yeah. So they did that for a reason. And they've been there a long time and will continue to be there. Yeah. And it's a terrific tenant.
Well, that's the key. You got to love triple net too, because, at the end of the day, they're covering all the expenses. So you've got a high net property there. And, that's why they're so popular. And, it's just the typical triple net that most people know of is the retail triple net. And, those have struggled. A lot of those have struggled, but when you're dealing with medical, dental, food service in terms of, wholesale food, either grocers or, food manufacturers, those are the types of things that just aren't going to go anywhere. And, it's all the core essentials that you need, no matter what the economic environment looks like.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. That, and you referenced apartments earlier, and we've have some holdings, small apartment holdings, and a number of single family homes. The price run up has been tremendous, and when I analyze those and put it in the underwriting model and see when we don't win, somebody else buys it, there's a big bet on the monthly rent increasing. There's a big bet on rental increases built into their pricing model that they're paying for in advance of actually receiving that.
Yeah, so that's your value add these days. I mean, I've got a lot of people in the multifamily space as well. Yep. And yeah, it's a different game now where, the bulk of your value add is increasing rents. And we've seen, rents go up 20, 30%,
correct.
Last couple of years. And, you will reach a tipping point in rents. So you got to be careful what kind of assets you're buying and what markets, so that you do have that,
correct.
alpha, that delta that you can,
yep.
Maximize in that property. But it's becoming more and more of a bond play. We're seeing yields on those things,
correct.
Drop. And, with interest rates rising, that's really changing the game. So we're going to see the pricing reset there over the next year as interest rates rise across the board. So I know you locked in on a good rate there as well, didn't you?
Sure. Yep. Yeah. And everything I'm doing is, in this scenario, 10-year fixed rate.
Yeah. And that was a local commercial bank that did that deal for you?
Local commercial bank. Yeah. Sub 4, negligible closing costs, hard costs to close.
Yeah, pretty easy to deal with.
Very easy to deal with. Yeah. And there's local banks out there. If you take the time to build a good relationship, it's, you can get a lot done, and there's value add. And what I mean by that is, a lot of these guys are very knowledgeable. They understand what's taking place in the market. They can give you a really good perspective that not everybody can.
Well, and they're in the business, of loaning money. That's how they make money. And they look for these types of assets. They're all over it. They love medical. They love dental.
Correct.
They love professionals. They love, gas stations, grocery stores, things like that. And,
and they love it even more when you got $1 million in equity.
Yeah, that's the big thing. That makes it real easy. And they don't care where it comes from either. It can come from you, it can come from investors, or it can be value. And which is very unique too, that you were able to get the bank to take that, and not make you put additional capital in. A lot of them, depending on the lender and depending on the borrower, still would want to see some cash in the deal. But I think you had a good relationship with them over the years, so they were willing to take this one on.
Yeah, and when you're able to, when I bought things like I referenced, my the bakery that I have, when I've bought other assets and demonstrated that I can buy them right, I can operate them correctly, and these things work well, it goes a long way.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. The biggest deal you've ever done, 9.6 million, started out with 4 properties, a little bit of creative deal structuring, financial engineering. You end up with 2 buildings that are generating $100K a year in passive income, triple net, and $1 million in equity. You could refinance that right now, put, probably 600-700 grand in your pocket and still, cash flow a little bit.
Right. Correct.
Yep. Tax-free too.
Tax-free on the refi.
Yeah,
you're exactly right.
So you still have a lot of good options with that. Well, Neil, I appreciate you taking some time out today to, kind of go over this deal with us. This one was a really good one, and I know a lot of people are going to learn a lot from it. And so how can people find you, if they want to invest with you, get involved with what you're doing, in your market there in Iowa?
Yeah, there's a couple ways you can connect with me. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll make sure we get the notes for you, the show for you, or you can find me on my website, legacyimpactpartners.com, legacyimpactpartners.com.
Yeah. And I'll post that in the, description down below the video as well. And Neil, thanks again for joining us today. And I look forward to the next deal.
Thanks, Greg. Always a pleasure. See you soon.